Hey, 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 greetings, greetings, greetings. It is another Saturday with Karnivor'ISH Konversations. And if you can remember, the ish stands for informed, satiated, and healing. Ooh, I'm super excited tonight about those of you that are here, that are joining. It is a Saturday, and I am super elated to have my guest today. So the question to you is, are you tired of prescriptions? Are you tired of a pill for every ill? What happens when the pills pile up, but the healing never comes? Too many of us know this story all too well. We got a bag of pills on the counter. We have loved ones, including ourselves sometimes, that we are juggling 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 prescriptions and no plan to get off. We've been told that this is forever, right? And so today, as we go through Karnivore-ish, we are flipping the script, y'all. We are here to talk about what it takes to heal and not just manage. Many times when we are at the doctor, with the doctor, we're learning how to manage our symptoms, how to make them better. Not today. Today, we are talking about how do we heal, right? How do we heal? What does it take? So this is about moving from sick care to actually what they say is health care. And our guest today has made that his life's mission. OMG, so excited. So first of all, as you all know, I'm Denitra, your ace. I come to you in a way that I'm going to always be your advocator. I'm going to be advocating for you. I'm always going to be coaching. And Dr. Hampton learned this when I sent him the show, is that I'm going to always be teaching because I am an educator. I'm the co-founder of Nutritional Knowledge, and we spell the nutritional KNEW because we believe if you knew better, would you, could you, should you do better. But we center everything that we do around breaking free from this misinformation, reclaiming our metabolic health. What does that mean? The things that we're eating, we want them metabolizing well. And when we do these things, that means that we are in a place of healing and leaving legacies of healing, right? So we talk a lot about leaving wealth as an inheritance, but I am on a mission that we can also leave health as a mission as well. So for me, he is known as the De-Prescribing Doctor. I heard him say de-prescribing so much that I have affectionately named him that, right? But he's also known as the Metabolic Doctor, the Low Carb Doc. Either way, Dr. Tony Hampton is changing the face of medicine, literally changing the face of medicine, because he's moving in a direction as often as possible to ensure that medicine is not the first answer. So he is a board certified family physician, a leader in the low carb and carnivore space, and one of few doctors who doesn't just write prescriptions. So I want to just say to each of you that no, we're not saying that prescriptions are not needed. Please don't hear us saying that. What we're saying is there something that we can do to ensure that we are not only given prescriptions as an option? He helps people get off of medicines, right? Through his work at Advocate Aurora Health in Chicago, Dr. Hampton has helped thousands of patients address root causes, reverse insulin resistance, and reclaim their health. He's a national speaker. He is also an author of Fix Your Diet, Fix Your Diabetes, and he hosts the Protecting Your Nest podcast. Now, I'm also going to add that he is a husband. I'm going to bring him on stage. So I know that his boo is watching. So I'm going to bring him on stage and say he is also the husband of Karan, who he talks about often. If nobody has mastered making sure that they acknowledge, appreciate, show gratitude in every space that I've ever been in with Dr. Hampton, it's how I know her, because he's going to make sure that if you see me, you know her, right? Y'all know the song, that twin song they got out, right? You see her, you see me, you see me, you see her, right? So we know that. So, hey, Karan, I'm saying it out loud first before we even get started. Also, he's a father of two boys, and it's just an all around great guy. Dr. Hampton has been so strategic in my own life. When I first met him in person, he was with his wife. I walked up like a fan. I was like, "Hey, I know you from YouTube, and you've been helping me and my family. How you doing?" Right? Because he's approachable and he really is on a mission to help us be well. And so, thank you, Dr. Hampton, for being here. And yes, I will continue to call you the De-Prescribing Doctor. And we will dive into what that means. I know it's a new term. I want to say you've coined it because I've not heard anyone else really using that term. I hear people say, I want to get off my meds, but I've not really heard like officially unprescribing you, de-prescribing you, and taking you off. So I'm gonna pause because I'll ramble on and on. I just want to give you an opportunity before we kind of dive into like the questions or whatever, just to share your heart, tell us who you are. I know that you have people watching, I have people watching, and I just want them to hear from you directly before we dive in.
Well, I'm definitely going to do a shout out to my boo, as you would say, Karan, and I'm glad you guys have become friends, interacting. I think that's wonderful. And I'm really excited to be here. I definitely want to encourage people on my channel to check out Denitra's channel. As you can see on the screen, I think that you'll find that she does a wonderful job because she's an educator. And I think if I wasn't a doctor, I would be a teacher, is no question. I actually had a patient literally this past week that was like, "You're always teaching me something." And I was like, "That I was born to do that. And I feel like it's my obligation to do that." So I really want to do that, make that statement. So, I'm in Chicago. I really spend a lot of energy trying to incorporate wellness into my clinical practice. I try to encourage my colleagues to do that in my health system. So one of my biggest things moving forward is, how do I get my health system to make that the standard? The standard is we help people heal. We don't manage disease. We actually figure out why they're sick, and then we walk with them to heal them. So if we can get more people in the country, in the world, to think that way, people will be on less medicine. So de-prescribing is something that we have to teach our doctors to do and our advanced practice professionals, because they were not taught that in school. They were taught to add on until you get to symptoms. And they literally are told to take more medicine until the symptoms occur, because their brain thinks that the only way to heal is to be controlled. Their illness is controlled with meds. So we're gonna change that paradigm, not only locally but hopefully in the whole country. So I love the work you're doing. I'm going to try to spread this message and give people hope. They need hope. They need to know that they do not have to have a bag of medicines for the rest of their lives. So I will shout this from the rooftops, and I want you guys to share that message as well. So thank you so much, Denitra, for the opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate you diving into that. And that's the same thing that, with nutritional knowledge, that and with this show that we continue to try to convey to people is root cause. Like, it was a term that I had not heard until I started hanging around in these spaces, that there is a root of why you are not well. And literally what came to me is that it's roots for real.
Right.
Because usually it's something plant-based that is causing. And so when I caught that oxymoron of root cause, it literally is sometimes definitely something that is originating in plants, if you will. So I just appreciate you leading the charge, even in your practice, right? Like, sometimes we can do some things on YouTube and say this is not medical advice, right? This is educational purposes only. But I think that the beauty is that you are realistically day in and day out doing this with your patients. So talk a little bit about what was one of the main things that opens your eyes to knowing that this could be an option to de-prescribe. I want to really define what this de-prescribe is. You talked a little bit about it. I just want to go deeper so people can understand that we're not saying, and I'm going to keep probably saying it throughout the show, we're not saying that prescriptions are not important. We're not saying that. But I want to echo what you said, is that it doesn't have to be only prescriptions. A lot of times when I'm working with my clients, I tell them sometimes the meds that you are taking are actually treating the food that you are eating. If you remove that food, then perhaps you wouldn't need that prescription. So give us like a deep definition of what this de-prescribe means for the audience.
Yeah, it's really important that we think about, you know, what's working and what's not working. And when I was on my journey as a traditional doc in a conventional health system, I noticed that people never really got off medicine ever. It just never happened, and it was normalized that they wouldn't get off medicine. So I felt like, as a, when I went into this profession, I felt like I was a healer, and I wanted to figure out, how do I help people heal? And then when I started to learn more, board certification, obesity medicine, masters in nutrition, I started to realize, oh, food can be medicine. So we talk about that in conventional settings, but we don't apply it. So a de-prescriber is a doctor who is being intentional. And it's, even for me, I have to be conscious of that. I had a patient this past week who was suggesting reducing medicine. I hadn't even suggested to her, and I'm the de-prescriber. So sometimes we have to be reminded. So that's the first lesson for the people who are checking us out today. You need to be intentional with your doctor. So a doctor who's being intentional to reduce medications, and it's in a supervised fashion, because when you are taking medicines away, and you only do that in the setting of healing. So if you're not healing, think about John Singleton, who did the Dr. Sebi approach documentary, and he took himself off medicine before he healed. If he had even though I'm not plant-based, if he had a healed first with his plant-based diet, Dr. Sebi diet, and then safely reduces medicine, he probably wouldn't have had a stroke. So we have to be very careful. That's why we say, always talk to your doctor when you're doing this. So intentional, supervised reduction of medicines is what I considered de-prescribing. And I think the key is, for most health conditions, this can be done. You've been told that you're going to be on medicines forever, but the reality is you can actually change your lifestyle, eat the right diet, and then gradually start to heal. And then as you heal, blood pressure goes down, blood sugar goes down, inflammation goes away. So a lot of the things that you were taking medicines for, even if it's pain, you won't need that medicine as much. So it's really a gift to give to people, to give them a chance to heal.
Absolutely. You said that so beautifully. And again, I want to echo that we're staying connected to our doctor. We're having conversations with our doctor. In some cases, we're educating our doctor. I mean, for me, at one point, I was prescribed cholesterol medicine. It appears that the cardiologist that I was seeing at the time had not heard of a CAC to scan my heart. And when I raised that to him, he did order it for me, but initially that wasn't an option. So we also can educate. I've heard you say what you've learned from your patients. Dr. Ken Berry talks about what he's learned from his patients. So, no longer is it just blindly go and trust. Okay, that's one thing we're saying. Mm-hmm. Number two thing that we're saying is, no longer is it that you just stop taking the meds.
That's right.
Right. I'm just not going to take that, or I don't want to be on that. So, they prescribed it to me. Let's uncover why we're on it. What's happening in my body that I'm being prescribed it. I often say that what's happening in your body shouldn't be a mystery. And so what we're saying is, let's uncover what the mystery is so that you can be aware as well. So you have people who are coming to you that are on 10 and 15 meds, right? They've been prescribed, and you mentioned it earlier, like one thing on top of the other thing. I have a client that I was working with who is taking who's been prescribed the blood pressure medicine. When her last results came back, those results showed that she also has low potassium, right? So in our conversation, my education of her, I'm like, this blood pressure medicine is the reason why your potassium is low. So then that was a conversation she was able to take back to her doctor. So talk to us about, you know, a case, of course, without giving names, where there have been these multiple meds that you were able to kind of draw some things together, and they were able to start having those removed based on what they were doing. I want to highlight that the patient has a role in this. It's not osmosis. It's not click your heels 3 times. It's not, you know, I'm on the prayer line. It's not the, you know, the pastor laid hands on me and said I was going to be healed. There's work to do.
So many stories, so many examples. I have a lot of people who see me who work for jobs like they work for the city, or they're bus drivers, or they're cops. And I had a retired bus driver recently who was taking medicines for heartburn, had been on that medicine for years, and really never thought much about it. And very interested in not taking a lot of medicine. And in this particular case, we found that they were a late night snacker, and obviously doing late night snacking could potentially flare up your heartburn. So in this particular case, we just said, can we eat a little bit heartier for dinner and see if we can avoid the snacking? We do that with, a lot of protein and fat, and they won't, it won't be as hungry. And then you have to put the snacking out of sight, because if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. So get it out of sight. Don't bring it home, bottom line. So, and so what I do is I have an approach where when people come to me and they're on like a lot of medicine, I try to look at each drug and say, okay, why did they start in the first place? And if there's a root cause, like this example for this, bus driver, then we try to address the root cause as opposed to let the medicine do its job. And sometimes by simply doing that, by knowing what the root cause is, you can remove the medicine. And then you start to, there's this kind of almost like a domino effect. I've had patients who are on medicines for blood pressure, for example, like an amlodipine. So the calcium channel blockers cause swelling, right? And this is what we do in medicine. We say, oh, you got swelling. So instead of being thoughtful about it and saying, okay, let's just, reduce the medicine or get you a different medicine, we'll then give you a water pill to deal with the swelling. So now we're on 2 medicines that have literally not even been necessary. So I tell the patient, listen, you're on a medicine that causes swelling. Let's reduce that medicine. That will probably allow you to get off the water pill. And then if we do a very good job with your lifestyle, then we'll be able to do wonders, because the lifestyle is what's going to heal your blood pressure. Nobody was born with an amlodipine calcium channel blocker deficiency. There is no such thing.
You just say that again for the people in the way back.
In the back, they didn't hear it. So you were not born with a blood pressure medicine like amlodipine or metoprolol or any other hydrochlorothiazide deficiency. You have a lifestyle. You have cultural histories that led you to a lifestyle that caused your blood vessels to be unhealthy and constricted and inflamed and holding on to salt. So it is the lifestyle that's going to help you recover from that. It's those refined carbs and sugars, and not prioritizing meat, because you were told, and we're carnivores, you were told that eating meat was harmful. And there's no reason to believe that. So I tell patients who are not carnivore, we're going to eat animal protein and non-starchy vegetables. That idea that you have to have a starch on your plate is not serving you. I say to those people, if you want to heal and get off those 10 medicines, we have to prioritize sleep. I prioritize sleep because a high cortisol, which is going to happen when you're sleep deprived, is going to also make your body make glucose via your liver, via gluconeogenesis. Now my sugar is high, which is going to raise my insulin, and my insulin is going to cause the constriction, inflammation, and holding on to salt in my blood vessels. I'm going to make sure that my stress level is reduced, and I'm not going to stress. I'm going to stop watching the news and worrying about what they're doing in the White House and all of this nonsense and focus on what they're doing in your house. That's
Right.
the house you should be focused on. And if we do those types of things, and we work with people who understand this. We work in my health system. We have pharmacists. We have just like my wife's a pharmacist, a pharmacy team who will work with me and my patient, who can, kind of keep their eyes on them. So as we're de-prescribing, we can do it safely. So it's a collaboration. It's not just the pharmacist and the doctor and the advanced practice professional and the coach like Denitra. It's also your friends and family. And you have to sit down with them and say, listen, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I want to heal, and I need you to walk with me. So if your spouse is that person you're talking to, you're asking them, out of sight, out of mind. So can you not have the slice of cake on the counter? Can you not have the peanuts that I always grab when I walk by them on the counter? So those are the types of things you do so that you can then start to reduce medicine. But the key is, it's 100% possible to reduce medicines, but you have to start the healing first. So if you're ready to heal, put in the chat, I'm ready to heal.
Yes, yes. And I often say that as well on my own journey, right? I still have, visceral fat to lose. I, have been spinning around in the 190s, seems like for 3 or 4 years, but I've watched my labs improve. I've watched my body shape change. I've watched my, the eczema that I used to have go away. So you're right. We didn't get in this space overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. And we have to understand that on the inside of us, y'all, on the inside of us is a lot of damage that if we were to cut ourselves open and flip out and look, we would see the inflammation that is on our organs. And that is what the body is trying to do first. So that's what I want to ask you. We were together last Saturday, actually, speaking in Kalamazoo. Shout out to Karnivor'ISH Grandma for her event. And you talked about metabolic health. And so we use that word loosely, right? Metabolic health, but we never think about it as metabolism and then tying it together from insulin resistance. So I talk about it a lot here on my show, but now that I have you here as the doc, I would love for you to give us a third, fourth grade definition of metabolic syndrome or insulin resistant, or what does it mean to be metabolically healthy? I think you gave us a statistic at the event about how many of us are sick. Anyway, how many of us are sick? So if you can dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, it's an important term because if we understand it, we'll have the foundation for how to heal 70 to 80% of all the chronic diseases that can impact us. Think about that. All the things that you fear can be prevented or put into remission. Stroke, high blood pressure, heart attack, type 3 diabetes, which is basically dementia, your risk for kidney failure, your risk for blindness, most autoimmune conditions, most mental health conditions. Why would you not pull that lever? So when I was at the beautiful conference in, Michigan, I wanted to echo return on investment. If I'm a doctor, if I'm a patient, if I'm anybody who wants to be healthy, why not do the one thing that'll make the most difference? And that's achieving metabolic health. So, and what's cool about it is kind of simple, and you're already measuring the things that are important. And it's just your blood sugar. If your blood sugar is high, your insulin's going to be high. And if your insulin is high, Houston, we have a problem. Your blood pressure is the outcome. A high blood pressure is the outcome of a high blood sugar, is the outcome of a high insulin, because your arteries become constricted. Your belly fat, believe it or not, fat around your organ, like a fatty liver, that's probably the most significant measure of metabolic health. So we want to shrink our bellies. And then when we do our cholesterol, we want to make sure our triglycerides are low. Those are the fats that float around in your blood. Those fats can cause a lot of problems if it's in excess. And you want your HDL, the good cholesterol, high density LDL cholesterol, to be in a normal range. So by keeping those things in balance, you won't have to worry about your total cholesterol or your LDL. And by the way, many of you are being told you need medicine for a total cholesterol, which includes the good, bad, and ugly. So if you have a good HDL, it's going to raise your total cholesterol. That's a good thing. And we want to do that. So it's really inappropriate for doctors, advanced practice professionals, to focus on total cholesterol. And the LDL cholesterol should be really broken down into particles, small and large. Smaller problematic, larger not as problematic. So I think it's important that we understand those are the measures. If you have 3 out of 5 that are not normal, that would suggest you don't have metabolic health. When we showed the statistic during the presentation, we just said, from Tufts University, they found that only 7% of Americans are metabolically healthy. If that's true, that means that very few people in this live stream, only 1 out of 14 are metabolically healthy. 1 out of 14. So if you look to the left and to the right, you'll probably see someone who's not metabolically healthy. And I really want to live in a world where that's not true, because if I can reduce that number, what happens is more people will have an opportunity not only to have a longer life, a lifespan, but a health span, so that while they're here, they'll be able to function and achieve their personal goals. So that's why we have to make that term known. And I hope everybody continues to socialize that among themselves and their friends and family.
Absolutely. And that was a loaded answer with so many nuggets. And I hope I should have told you all, like a teacher, bring your notepad, but you can go back and watch the replay. So a couple of things that I just want to highlight around LDL cholesterol. I put in the comments, if your doctor tells you have an LDL cholesterol that's high and they are prescribing you a statin, ask for a CAC scan. Yeah. These are conversations that you can have with your doctor and just say, because that CAC is going to give you an actual picture of your heart. That's right. The LDL cholesterol that they are treating you for is a risk factor. It's a risk factor. It is not a disease. It is them attempting to prevent you from having a heart attack or a stroke. But what we know now is that the statin drug does not do that. And I'm not a medical professional, and I know that, right? That's right. It does not do that. So you're on a statin. I see in the chat where someone is saying what statins can and will do to you. This is why I say, what you're taking and what's happening in your body should not be a mystery to you. A lot of times when I ask people what's their A1C, I don't know. Doc said everything was normal. I need you to know these numbers, right? Like, your phone number, what gas your car uses, where the windshield wiper fluid goes. You're treating your car. I'm included in this because I was guilty that I was treating my car. I was more intimate with what my car needed than what my body needed. The reason why we show up in these spaces is to help us turn a corner on that and start prioritizing ourselves. Don't just accept. I have clients who have brought me their labs and all of their numbers were in the green, but they were missing some labs. Mm-hmm. And their A1C was a 5.6, which as a teacher, I say that's the difference between a D and an F. Mm. It's not like you just made the honor society, right? That's right. And so you have to decide, when am I going to cross over into the F range, right? That's right. And so you got to think about, I know as people, we want everything to be well. And if you are a Christian, you really want everything to be well, right? God said I was healed by his stripes. Like, I know all the scriptures too, but I was a sick sister with all the same scriptures until I got knowledge. Remember, the word also tells us that my people perish because they lack knowledge. Mm-hmm. Shortly under that is we reject to know. So I want for us to take information like what Dr. Hampton, everybody we bring to this show, the point is for you to get knowledge so that you can make some informed decisions. So thank you for highlighting that. Now, Sam and I have termed death care, right? We call what's happening in the healthcare system, we are starting to call that death care, because literally, I mean, if you think about it, if there are not more docs that show up like you that are de-prescribing, then we literally are treating people until they die. Because we don't see a way off of the medicine. There is no way. I mean, when I was prescribed Plaquenil for lupus, I was told I would take more of it for the rest of my life, that the doses would only increase. Now, I never took any of it, but I was told that the doses would definitely increase. So speak to, I hear you often when I'm watching you on Monday nights, you talk about misinformation, you talk about the health disparities, you know, these systemic issues. Talk to me about, why do you think Black men, Black women, and Black children, why are we carrying this, the heaviest burden? So you gave us a statistic of 7% of us. I'm in that 7%. I mean, in that 93% of people who are sick. Talk to me about, why is this so prevalent in the Black and Brown communities?
Yeah, it kind of breaks my heart, to be honest with you, that it is more prevalent in communities of color. And I think that, I mean, there's so many reasons. People will hear terms that will define, you know, things like social determinants of health. And it's pretty simple when you think about it. If I live in a food desert, which some people may think is strange, you know, but there are literally places where you go to the grocery store and the foods are choices that you would not be satisfied with, where most of the food is in a box, right? And things that are in a box tend to be highly processed, and they may taste good and they may make you feel good for a few minutes, but they really don't give you nutrients the way the foods on the outside of the grocery store. And then if you go to the outer part of the grocery store, are the meats fresh? Are the vegetables fresh? You may get lucky and find something that is. And when I grew up on the west side of Chicago, that was typical, especially in these little corner stores where sometimes you had to shop because the big stores, the grocery stores weren't there. But it's not just the grocery store. Do I even have transportation to get to the grocery store? I mean, you'd be surprised how many people do not have transportation. Or maybe I'm a senior and I rely on my kids, and my kids are working or they're not nearby, and it's kind of hard to get to the grocery store. Oh, not to mention, because we're not anti-medicine, we're talking about de-prescribing, but if I need my medicine to heal so I won't have a stroke like people who don't heal first, then I need to be able to, you know, the pharmacy needs to be in my neighborhood. And guess what? There are many communities, particularly in the Chicago area, a lot of the Walgreens, which is one of the major stores, they are leaving these communities. And what happens is now you got a pharmacy desert. And one of the things that we're trying to do in our health system with Advocate Health is, as we build a hospital, a new hospital, and 10 clinics to support it, those 10 clinics are going to have literally a vending machine for the drugs. Imagine that. So they leave, they go to the vending machine, and they can get their prescriptions in the vending machine. Oh, and you're like, well, what about the pharmacists? Where are they? Well, it's technology. So they push a button, and then if they push the button, the pharmacist will come on and answer questions about their medication. So we believe that people need access to food. We have a food pharmacy in our health system. Even a carnivore doctor leads a smart farm. So yes, I'm guilty. We grow plants on the smart farm, but that's because most of my patients are not carnivore. They're low carb, keto, carnivore, and everything else. And we want to make sure they are eating real food regardless of their dietary pattern. So when you are dealing with communities, and I would argue rural America, let's leave the communities of color and say, what about rural America? Well, there may be some folk that are not of color, but they are struggling. And what we found, because we have clinics in places like Wisconsin, we shout out to Carrie of Homestead How, and I visited him, and it was rural. I went through a whole lot of cornfields to get to him at Montello Theater to do a carnivore meetup. In those communities, they're struggling too. So when I'm trying to help people have access to food, I try to tell them to keep it simple. I'm writing an obesity book as we speak. Hopefully it'll be ready early next year. And it's going to be more storytelling. And one of the stories I tell them is you need an animal. And if you're not a carnivore, a non-starchy vegetable. And if you eat an animal and a non-starchy vegetable, and you're not worried about starches, and you're not worried about highly processed food, you will heal. You need to maybe start, if you're safe. Now, this is another part about communities of color. Can I take a walk after my dinner safely? And the answer is oftentimes you can't. But if you can, or you can, you need to start moving your body after you eat, because that movement will help reduce your blood sugars. What about making things affordable? Well, the egg prices have come down, thank God. So now that we can afford the eggs are more affordable. I hated chicken thighs previously. I love chicken thighs now.
They've always been my favorite.
Well, you blessed, because I was like,
Yes.
I don't want that. That's the cheap meat. And it's still the cheap meat, but it's also the affordable meat, and it's fatty. And when you're a carnivore,
And you can eat the skin. Let me
you
just
can
say
eat
that
the
out loud.
skin.
Eat the skin, y'all.
Listen, people don't know what they're missing. And you don't have to, whether you're keto or carnivore, listen, that skin is fat. And I'm going to release a video hopefully Monday talking about how to increase fat in your food. And one of the ways is to eat the skin, because if you're doing carnivore without fat, you're probably going to struggle. In fact, a lot of people who have left carnivore left it because they're not eating enough fat. So we need and the thigh by itself is fatty compared to the other parts of the chicken. So, and we also can say it's okay to do canned foods like canned fish and like tuna and things like that. It's okay to do frozen greens. So what we have to do in communities of color is make sure that we show them how to do things affordable. Ground beef is still there's essential amino acids, essential fatty acids in ground beef. So if you eat ground beef, you're going to get the fattier version. You're not going to do the 85-15. You're going to do the 70-30 or whatever, if you can find it.
Hampton, what about those people who say they can't eat fat? I just had this conversation with a family member who I've been trying to encourage them to eat more fat. They've gotten into bacon. They really love bacon a lot. However, I'm trying to get them to turn a corner and understand the benefits of eating beef, even if it's low cost beef, and the difference that makes. So just want to put a pin and a plug for this particular person and talk a little bit about that beef, the beef fat, and how it is healing to the body. Why are we even looking at meat as our option for eating? Why do we do that? Why do we do that?
It gives me a flashback. I was always a fan. You were always a fan of thighs, maybe because of the fat. I was always a fan of eating the fat on the ribeye. So I'm so grateful that I can eat the fat on the ribeye. So for people who are worried, the first thing you need to do, you can search College of Cardiology position statement on fat. And when you search College of Cardiology position statement on fat, you'll see the journal stated with their position statement in 2020 that saturated fat is not associated with heart disease and early mortality. And not only is it not associated with heart disease, it's actually protective against stroke. So the doctors who tell you not to eat fat don't know that. The other thing you can search is fat, protein, carb graph. When you look at a fat, protein, carb graph, you'll see the carb spike the most. The protein spikes your sugar just a little bit, and the fat is a flat line. So, and guess what? The more you spike, the higher you raise your insulin. The higher your insulin, the more you have metabolic disease. So of the macronutrients, there's only 3. Fat is the least likely to spike your blood sugar. Oh, by the way, if I want to make the cell membranes in my body to be safe, and I want to make hormones and protect my brain, your brain is mostly 60%. It's just fat. So I need fat for my brain, for my hormones, for my cell membranes. It's a very stable source of fuel. So it really satiates you and makes you feel full. It helps you with your fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, K, etc. And if you're struggling with your weight, it's a satiety food source that makes you feel full. So you're not craving the things that you craved in the past. If I skip lunch, nothing goes wrong because my body is using fat for fuel. And if you train it to burn fat for fuel, that's the key. I use that mnemonic: Boca, butter, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, most of which are kind of plant-based for those who are plant-based. And for us carnivores, we use beef tallow. We use lard. We cook everything with bacon grease, duck fat, and you can use ghee, which is clarified butter. Fat is not the enemy, guys. Your body loves and prefers fat as a fuel source. So you don't have to worry about your heart. It's a great source of food that won't spike your sugar and raise your insulin. It makes you feel full. It is a phenomenal source of nutrition. So you're missing out. And as you become more and more fat adaptive, you will be better able to sustain any of these dietary patterns, but particularly for carnivore. That's why I'm going to make a video for Monday. How do you increase fat in your diet? So we're going to maybe I'm going to take a few talking points around that topic, because people say eat more fat, but they don't know what to do. So we want to give them some information that'll help them along that path.
Yeah. So thank you for breaking that down and making it simple. One of the things you gave me a flashback. So I grew up in the Memphis area, and I think there may still be a few of them. Anybody that's from Memphis, there's a Jack Pirtle's Chicken restaurant, and it was always a drive-through, never a sit-down kind of place. But every Friday, my mom, we would have dark meat. I knew the difference between dark meat and white meat very early, and we would always have the dark meat. That's what my love for I had a flashback. Sorry. I had a flashback. Hey, this is what I want to turn to next and kind of unpack some. I want to take a few minutes and just talk about your own healing journey. I hear you say it often. So, of course, we're in this space and you are leading the charge, and you are an expert, right? You've gone to school. I've heard you say, many doctors do not have training in nutrition. You did the work. You went and got trained in nutrition, and you are working with patients to help them understand that there is a reason, a root cause as to why they are suffering with the different illnesses that they're suffering with. But I also just want to kind of humanize you for a moment, if you will, of your own journey, even as a doctor, how misinformation also had you on a different path in your entire family, to be exact. So talk to us a little bit about that journey. And then I want to open it up for questions for the folks that are here. But I want to hear that and speak that to the audience as well.
Yeah, I think for me, it probably started with how we started my boo got type 1 diabetes, right? So Karan, my wife, she got that diagnosis. So everything I did in the beginning was really to serve her and to make sure she could have a normal blood sugar. Then I noticed that when we first tried this plant-based diet, that first of all, she couldn't control her sugars ideally. It was still better than standard American diet, but it was still a pretty much 100% carb diet, and her blood sugars were difficult to control. Some of that was because of our choices. We were eating pasta and potatoes, and maybe if we had just had greens without the cornbread, we would have been fine. For me, I noticed that when I went towards a plant-based diet, and I did take probiotics back then, I was better off compared to the standard American diet, but I was still bloated after meals. I was extremely gassy, and I would still have attacks of irritable bowel. They weren't as frequent, but they were still occurring. So when I started writing my book, Fix Your Diet, Fix Your Diabetes, in her honor, I noticed that the science kept pointing me back to low carb as the best dietary pattern for a carb intolerance. It should have been a duh moment, but of course, that's what I did. So I said, you know what, dear, let's try this low carb thing. We tried it at home. I started doing it with my patients, and all of a sudden, I found that people were doing much better with low carb, keto type dietary patterns. So for me, when I started eating that way, I started feeling better. And I think the reason why I felt better is because plants are interesting. They certainly have nutrients in them, but most of the nutrients, like iron and spinach, you only absorb 2% of the iron, where you would absorb 30 to 40% in animal products. So those anti-nutrients in plants were not just keeping me from absorbing iron, but it was also leading to irritation. So that's part of why I was bloated. I thought having gas from Brussels sprouts was normal life, where it really wasn't. And then as I went from low carb, I felt better. When I went towards keto, I felt even better. But when I got to carnivore and I started eating ruminant meat, and I got rid of all the plants and the toxins that come with them, and the fiber that comes with them, and the grains. All of a sudden, the bloating just disappeared within like a week or so. It just disappeared. The cramping, the urgency, everything went away. And the only time I would have problems is when I indulged in those plants. So for me, it was an opportunity to heal in a way that allowed me to feel normal again. And I never thought it was possible to feel normal again. I thought my old life was my normal. And of course, that led to me wanting to share my story with the Protecting Your Nest podcast, et cetera. So I'm really excited that I have this opportunity to now help other people. And I think part of what I want to do on my YouTube channel is like that adding fat to your diet video is to problem solve for people, because people are going to struggle for different reasons. And my goal is to say, if you're struggling, let's grow together. Let's learn together, figure out why you're struggling. It's not necessarily the diet. It may be how you're applying the diet. It may be how you're, maybe diet is not the best word, but it's how you're eating differently, but your body has some issues that came up. Every diet, I don't care if it's vegan or carnivore, has issues, and clearly the biggest issue with carnivore is probably electrolytes and things like that. So once you kind of understand that and you start to mitigate that, then you'll be in a better position to do the things necessary to be successful. So again, we would shout from the rooftops. If we didn't have this platform, we'd be on a roof right now shouting to the world that, hey guys, we found this little secret. We want you to know about it. And then for those who are doing different dietary patterns, we say, you do what works for you, but please, please, please let us do what works for us. And that's my message to the crew today.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your own journey. I think it only continues to validate the work, right? You've had your own experience. It's not just I opened up a book and I learned. It is I applied to my life, and now I'm able to better understand. And even beyond that, the same for me is that I wanted to understand the science behind it. I do want to caveat, because we're dropping the word carnivore a lot, right? And then in a lot of spaces, it's a very hard word for people to hear. So this show is intentionally named Karnivor'ISH, right? Because when I used to have to be somewhere, I would tell them I'm gonna get there at 9-ish, right? I want to, I've lost some ish weight, right? That kind of thing, because we're not militant here. And for those that are listening, you continue to hear in a Black Holistic Facebook group where the question was, the lady was like, I cannot get my daughter to eat vegetables. She hates them. She throws them up. It's like a knee-jerk reaction for her every time she does. Well, of course, my comment was, her body don't want that.
Right.
Right. So you're trying to force something on her that is not even natural to her body. And so I think that's the message. And then I often say that what we're also saying is all plants are going to metabolize as sugar. So when you hear us say carnivore, what we're saying is that meat don't metabolize as sugar. Right. And so if you need these other kind of caveats to help you on your journey, I tell my clients, you know, tell people you're just decreasing the amount of saccharide you're having now,
That's
right?
right.
You when you go to your doctor and they say, "Oh my God, you're doing carnivore, you're gonna die, you're gonna have a heart attack." Don't say it like that. Just
Yeah,
tell them I have decreased my sugar. I'm no longer eating pasta. I don't eat bread anymore. I've limited the kind of fruit that I'm going to eat. So these are the same thing that we're saying. Somehow someone has put a label on it that says
that's right.
carnivore.
I wanna nuance it a little bit
Yes.
and say this. So the next question people may ask, well, if you're eating just animals, where are you going to get your sugar from? Now, let's be clear. If you eat enough fat on a carnivore diet, you're going to hopefully be in ketosis, and if you're in ketosis as a carnivore, you're going to use a lot of ketones as your primary fuel. But the difference between the protein and the fat and the carbs and the sugar is that if I take that protein and I ask my liver to through gluconeogenesis to turn the protein into glucose, guess what? When I do that, I'm not going to do it just haywire. If I eat a piece of cake, my body is forced to take that glucose and do something with it. When I eat protein and gluconeogenesis occurs, it's going to be on demand. So if I get any glucose from that protein, I'm only going to release it when my body needs it. Therefore, that's less likely to be a problem with diabetes and insulin resistance and metabolic disease. So I think it's really important to understand that the body kind of prefers having a little control over the narrative. And that's a much safer place to be than to just dump, literally, if I eat a large potato, shout out to the smothered potato folk out here, because I used to love that. And I will indulge periodically. Let's be clear, because we're carnivore-ish sometime, right?
That's
Amen.
right.
But it's 60 carbs. And 60 carbs divided by 4 is 15 teaspoons of sugar. So when you put 15 teaspoons of sugar in a body that should only have 1 teaspoon of sugar in your blood at a time, that's 14 teaspoons of sugar I got to deal with. And some of that's going to get stored as glycogen in your muscle and in your liver. A whole lot of it's going to get stored as fat. So if you struggle with your weight and you just ate a big potato, that may be a reason why. So it's okay to have moments of indulgence with the slightly burned onion, potato. I'm having a flashback, but you don't want
Yes.
to make that your routine. Now that you know the numbers, once you know the numbers, you can't unlearn it. You can't unlearn that large potato is 15 teaspoons of sugar. So once we learn, we try to do better, and we keep that out of sight when we're struggling. Some people should just stay away altogether. Other people are able to have moments of indulgence.
And that's often what I say too is you have to know your damages, because we came to this space. So this 93% of Americans that are not well, that are metabolically unwell, like our damages are different. Mine was a
That's right.
diagnosis of autoimmune lupus. I'm working with women who is, PCOS, other people who are having thyroid issues, acid reflux. I mean, all of these things that we think are unrelated. I had a conversation with a gentleman in Switzerland. He's on vacation in Switzerland, and my friend called me from Switzerland. She's like, he is struggling with his gout right now. He's on 3 different meds. The meds are not working. And I told him, you used to have gout and you probably can help him. Like, this guy lives in America, is on vacation in Switzerland, and suffering with gout. And I told him, drop all the sugar, man.
It's
Get you
very
plenty of
simple.
water. It's a dehydration problem that no one ever told us about either. What I want people to hear is that it's not the red meat. It's not the shrimp. It's not the scallops. It is crystallizing sugar, basically.
That's right.
And you're dehydrated because carbohydrates dehydrate you.
And
So when you hear us on this soapbox, what sounds like a soapbox to some, like we are trying our best to like make it make sense so that you understand, like we're not just beating you over the head We literally are saying that carbohydrates are taking you out. Dr. Anthony Chafee says plants are trying to kill you. Sugar is based in plants, right? Are we demonizing plants? What we're saying is, could it be your root cause that you're ignoring because you just want to believe that plants are healthy? And that's the thing. Dr. Hampton, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say some last words, but we have many comments. And so I do want to pop some of these on the screen. I appreciate everyone joining on today. We got Dr. Nelson from the Kilts Camp is here. Thank you for being here. Gaylin, I actually met her and her husband. They were at the event in Kalamazoo showing up on today.
Nice.
Okay, here's a question for you. She says, I'm losing too much weight. I don't need to help me. So let's talk to John about that.
That's a great question. I've never had a weight problem, so I resonate with this. And when I started doing low carb, keto, and carnivore, that was one of my biggest concerns. Going back to fat. So fat does have a lot of calories in it. So if you're not doing a higher fat version of carnivore, it's time to add the butter and the beef tallow and the fatty cuts like the ribeye and the ruminant meat. And sometimes because you're not hungry, you may not eat as often as you probably should. So if you're only eating once a day, go to twice a day. If you're eating twice a day, go to 3 times a day, but make sure it's a solid animal-based diet. Make sure that you're thinking about tracking. Sometimes we have to track because we're not big fans of calorie counting, but when we struggle, we need to track and make sure that we're not under eating. We always tell people to eat till we're comfortably full, but sometimes either we're not doing that or we need to still push a little bit further. So I would also say, and this is what I did, I have a trainer, and if you build up a little muscle, it may first of all make you eat a little bit more, but I think that eating a little muscle, or should I say lifting weights, would be very helpful to help build muscle, which will then help preserve your body mass. And then the other, that's why I have a nest, right? Nutrition, exercise, less stress, more sleep. Honestly, I think you need to make sure you're prioritizing sleep. These are low-hanging fruit recommendations, but I find that people don't do the low-hanging fruit as much as they should.
Absolutely. The only thing I want to add to that I have to say to my clients, be sure that you are not over exercising in the sense of cardio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You could potentially be overdoing it on the cardio. So people who are like, I ain't never had that problem. I'm never gonna overdo exercise. It don't work like that for me. Right. But there are people who they live that the gym is their thing. And then so you're over exercising maybe. All right. Just want to Natasha Darrington. These people are on your channel. I just want to acknowledge them being here.
Absolutely.
Good evening to Miss Jean Martin. We do the gym. Some folks that are new to the channel, and forgive me for not knowing all this thing about this, but hey Denitra, shout out to my Gen X carnivore Dr. Tony Hampton. This person is from your channel. Let's see here. We had a watching from Marietta, California. Got a couple of California folks on here.
That's right.
There's Leah. Leah's a part of a group that I'm a part of. Leah, that's a cute picture too. Let me just say that. I see a Gary, Indiana here. Here is Bama J from Alabama. Thank you for joining. I see where you have been responding to some of these already. I'm so new to this. Okay, here's one. All right, we answered her. She didn't think we were going to get to. Oh, and they're calling. She's from Liverpool, England.
Love it.
So hopefully that was helpful to you to maybe not be over exercise. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Other people are answering. Y'all so cool in here. All right, here's one from Brian. Did I get it up? Did it come up? Nope, I didn't do it. Many doctors don't seem to have a heart of a teacher like Doc. Yes, Dr. Hampton can say he's not a teacher all day. Every time I see him, he's teaching. If y'all haven't seen his red meat video, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. It's amazing. Make sure you check that out. All right, we got more from her. All right, here's Dr. Nelson. Yeah, I'm just not good at this. I never had this many comments before. Let me just say that out loud.
It's all good. And also, I think what we'll do in the future is ask people to put the cues.
Yeah, so we'll know which ones are questions. Here's one. Thanks, Dr. Hampton, for explaining how it's better if your body does. Okay, that's good. I think I've gone through. Okay, here's someone that's saying their weight loss is stalled. Suggestions on breaking it, please.
Yeah, that's cool. So, man, it's weight loss stalls are very common because your body is going to try to. It's trying to. First of all, it thinks you're trying to kill it, right? And so when your body is gonna slow its metabolism down because it thinks you're trying to hurt it, right? And so we don't want to hurt ourselves, so the body's gonna make it hard. So we're not programmed to lose weight. If we go back to our ancestors, that was not a good thing. So we talked a little bit about fat being a good thing, and you have to be high on fat when you're trying to do this carnivore diet or keto. But too much fat can be a problem. So you have to be very careful that you're not overdoing the fat, and that's a problem too. So start thinking about that. Some people struggle because of dairy. Like I'm kind of iffy on dairy. I can do like fermented dairy, like kefir and yogurts and cheese, but some people should limit dairy because those extra dairy ingestions, like those creamers in your coffee, the cheeses, that can actually be an issue. So I would actually I would take a dairy break and see if that dairy break actually gets you out of that stall, because sometimes that'll be a problem. And this seems really interesting. You know, you want to start introducing fasting. So if you're feeling like you're not, hungry, just don't eat. Take a break. And fasting is a great way to break a weight loss stall. And then going back to my nest and rope, sleep is huge. Stress is huge. It increases cortisol, which then increases glucose. And again, that glucose comes from the protein that kind of allows the liver to have some gluconeogenesis glucose that can be formed. So I would really focus on that. The artificial sweeteners can be a problem. Alcohol, don't blame it on the alcohol. Well, sometimes you do have to blame it on the alcohol, and I would say be cautious of that as well. So those are the things that come to mind. Obviously, we have our clinicians, so sometimes you have to circle back to the doctor and say, give me a complete thyroid panel so I can check and see how my thyroid panel is looking. So I would do that as well.
Absolutely. And this is B. Russell giving a shout out to me. And also she's an Xavier alum. So she captured that you are a graduate.
Yeah.
She said, can you talk a little bit about, I had this same conversation yesterday, switching the diet to carnivore and how to avoid constipation. Have been working to switch from keto to carnivore. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. Constipation is a issue, and most of it is easy to prevent. Because the first thing you have to ask yourself is, am I eating enough or drinking enough fluids, right? And a lot of times people aren't. So when I'm at work, I have like a mobile computer, so I keep water there. Sometimes I'm sipping on actually chicken broth. So I would say hydrate. The second thing you should do is electrolytes. I think a lot of people who are doing this dietary plan, because carbohydrates attract water, salt, potassium, magnesium. Low carb keto carnivore gets rid of those things. So I would actually increase the electrolytes. I like high fat foods, help to reduce collagen or constipation. So oxtail, those chicken thighs we talked about, things like that are very helpful as well. I work with a trainer. I find when I move more, I tend to have more regularity. So I would tell people, make sure they move more. And believe it or not, of all the electrolytes, it's the salt that's the most important. And then circle back, look at your meds. am I taking a blood pressure medicine that, makes me constipated? Am I taking pain medicine that makes me constipated? Am I taking iron? So look back at some of the obvious things too, to make sure those are not contributing.
And the thing that I want to add to that, the conversation that I was having, is that sometimes when you are carnivore, you are not constipated. You're just not
Right.
producing as much waste because you're not
That's right.
eating as
Great
much
point.
waste. And so a lot of times we've been told that we should have regular bowel movements. And what I say to people is, the bowel movements is what we call it, but it really is waste. Your body is only going to get rid of what it cannot use, has used up, or it does not want it. So we have less movement, if you will, when you're eating carnivore, because you're not eating waste stuff. So it took me a while to really grasp that concept and really understand that this is the reason why I'm not going as often. Now, for me, because I still have visceral fat that I'm losing when I am having a bowel movement, a poop, whatever you want to call it, it is because it's already on me and it's getting rid of it. But the fact that you're not eating as much waste stuff, that's always going to be plants. So, Dr. Hampton, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this. I did some research on a lion's poop. Little joke from the Lord. In a lion's poop, they only eat meat. The only thing that was there, it actually has a name, it's called skint. It only had skeletal bones and hair left in the poop. There was no meat there because your body absorbs the meat, right? I've heard you say that. I've heard Dr. Berry say
That's
that
nice.
meat never makes it to the toilet.
That's
it is
crazy.
the waste stuff. And all of that waste that you could not get out, guess what? It's stored somewhere on you as inflammation. So I'm going to rush this along. Want to say hi to Robin, Karnivor'ISH grandma stopped
Absolutely.
by. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. And if we are missing some questions, we will do these questions in the chat.
Yes.
It looks like we're catching them all. You definitely need electrolytes. I see someone talking about their swollen ankles. It's not the electrolytes. Now it could be oxalate dumping. I don't know if you want to speak to that. Let me try to get this one up.
Yeah.
It could be oxalate dumping, if you want to speak to that one.
Yeah. And I'm just glad that I just want to say this out loud. If you have questions after the live stream, put them in the comments, which is, after the video, and I'd usually circle back. There's not as many questions in the live streams in the comments, so it's easier to identify them compared to like a video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just want to say that. So yeah, a lot of people, when you stop eating high oxalate containing foods, things like spinach, almonds, maybe sweet potatoes and things like that, your body is like, oh, I've been holding on to these oxalates which come from those foods in my tissues, and I want to release that now. So when oxalates start leaving your tissues, they can definitely cause a little irritation to the tissues and your joints. And when that happens, you get inflammation. And when you get inflammation, guess what comes with it? Water. So you start holding on to water, and it can also cause pain and stiffness as well. So it's really important that if you have those symptoms, again, you have to hydrate. Make sure you get your electrolytes in. That's going to be very important. And then you kind of you start to pay attention to the foods you're eating a little bit. Try not to eat a lot of foods that are aged and things like that. But for the most part, this is something that'll pass. And like you said, Denitra, electrolytes are not actually gonna cause that problem at all. If anything, it'll support it and help. So they should be okay over time.
Yep, I got two more I'm gonna pop. This is one from Karen W says, thank you for your videos, Dr. Hampton. For the first time, food cravings have quieted. Prior to bariatric surgery, didn't resolve my cravings. And she wants to know, are there any other ideas to increase hydration?
Yeah, so she's asking about how to increase hydration, besides, besides your, fluids themselves. So the first thing is, like, I started doing, I started using broths because, first of all, I had some taste. That's number one. Number two, it has some electrolytes and salt and stuff like that. So if you're hydrating without salt, you're gonna have problems. So I think the first thing is maybe think about doing some chicken broths, beef broths. I think that'll be very important. I think it's also important that you spread it out, because if you do it all at once, that may be a little bit of a problem too. Uh, it's kind of similar to how you responded to the other comment. Uh, how much is enough, right? And I think your thirst is part of it, and then your urine is the other part. So if I look at the urine and it's kind of, if it's clear, you're probably overdoing it, and if it's dark, that you're probably not drinking enough. So make sure you're having kind of a light pinkish kind of or light yellowish, should I say, color to your urine. I think you'll do better with that. In terms of, there are foods that have more hydration than others, so I would kind of lean into that a little bit. And I just think that if you focus on that in that area, I think they'll do fine. Those are the things that kind of come to mind.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add to that is, making sure that you are getting, an ample amount of magnesium, the right type of
Mhm.
magnesium, the right type of potassium, some quality potassium, as well as your sodium. The sodium is going to be key. I know we've been told don't and you
I know.
can't. Now, Morton's, the woman with the umbrella, no, she has sugar in her. You do need a quality salt. But here's the analogy that I use is when you sweat, when you cry, all of that tastes like salt, whether you know
Right.
it or not. So you have to be intentional about not just giving yourself water back. Okay. All right. Here's another one. She says, since eating this way, I noticed that after I do a lot of walking, my legs feel heavy, not swelling, but I may have lipedema. Thoughts?
Well, the good thing about, lipedema versus lymphedema suggests that the when you get to your ankles, you have like everything's kind of fatter until you get to your ankles, and once you get to your ankles, it stops. That would be lymphedema, and that's when you just have an excessive amount of fat in your subcutaneous tissue, where with lymphedema is more like fluid. Both, however, benefit from a keto or carnivore diet, because it's going to reduce inflammation, it's going to reduce swelling, and they both benefit. The problem with lymphedema, where you have more of a fat issue, is that sometimes you still need to have surgery or some type of procedure to remove the fat. It's almost like liposuction. And sometimes you have to go there to get the results you're looking for. So, any doctor who specializes in obesity medicine would be able to identify that, whether it's a bariatric doctor and or a metabolically trained doctor. And then from there, you can kind of, I would do the lifestyle first, see how you do with that, and then see if you need to do any other interventions after that.
All right. This is Tova. I hope I'm saying your name wrong. Right, not wrong. Not saying your name wrong. In the group, in the comments, I did put that I do have a carnivore-ish, and I look like I spelled it wrong. Carnivore-ish, the same as the show, but it's called Community. Or you can send me a friend request on Facebook or LinkedIn. Either one of those, you can send me, and I'll get you added to our group. Dr. Hampton, I don't know that you have
It's
a
not yet.
okay.
That's on the radar, but not yet. I do go to other groups and do it that way, but I haven't created my own yet. But that's on the to-do list.
Yep, we miss Black Carnivore. She can come. She has a place here. I'm a student of hers. She is the predecessor, if you will, before me being here. All right, David Rogers has. What advice would you have for someone with
Yeah, vestibular, I see it.
okay,
Migraine. Yeah.
migraines who is
Oof.
currently on a high complex? Carb diet. Okay. Perimenopause at 55 years old and obese.
Yeah. Again, the key to all of these illnesses is to address the root cause. And high carb diets will spike insulin and cause inflammation, which will then contribute to a migraine situation and weight gain. So again, we don't know why someone's on a high carb diet, but it would be my recommendation to consider experimenting for 30 days or 90 days with a low carb diet. Doesn't have to be carnivore, a whole foods diet. So you can stabilize your blood sugar and reduce those insulin spikes, which cause nerve irritation. And when you do that, you prioritize protein and healthy fats like, eggs, fish, meat, things like that. That's going to really do wonders. And also just pay attention. What's causing a trigger? Is it caffeine? Is it aged cheeses? Things like that. Processed meats can affect people too. And I think you want to do those types of things too. Some people have headaches around their cycle. If you're past that age, you may want to still have your hormones checked, because sometimes that can do it as well. As you lose weight, you'll probably have less headaches, because fat cells actually cause inflammation. So that'll help. And then I would 100% be a fan of magnesium. The electrolytes are critical, but the one that really is good for migraines is magnesium. So I would consider magnesium glycinate, 200 plus per day to your tolerance. That would really be something I would do on a consistent basis. But I would do electrolytes in general with a little extra magnesium, and obviously make sure your stress and sleep and things like that are okay as well.
Thank you. Jacqueline Wickfall. So you can like my channel at Advocator, Coach, Educator. Dr. Hampton's YouTube channel. Looks like that's where you're showing up. Dr. Hampton has lots of videos about starting carnivore. You can search.
There's one that, going back to A-Day Fox, if they put my name and A-Day Fox and starting how to start carnivore, that's probably an hour-long video that I did with her, and she really walks through it. That was even before I was carnivore, and
yes,
she does a good job of walking through that, so they should be able to find that.
Absolutely. So A-Day Fox, for those of you that do not know, is the Black carnivore. And there is a way for you to search for her videos. And Dr. Hampton is saying that they did one together, but Dr. Hampton has some great videos. Every week I'm speaking about carnivore. My show airs on Monday nights at 6 Central, and this time on Saturdays at 3:30. And then I'm going to wrap up. Gaylen, I see your question about magnesium, and it just depends because there are different types of magnesium depending on what your goals are. So let's talk offline about what your goals are, and then we will fix that. I do want to just say thank you, Dr. Hampton, for being here and helping us understand that we can be de-prescribed from our medicines or prevention. Like this month, I'm talking about this, power over pills, right? That we can have prevention. We could avoid never being prescribed a medicine. And so that's the direction we want to go. So we have to talk about this in a way that says that we want to heal. And it's because we have made ourselves sick based on what we've been eating. SAD diet, plant-based diet, something that is foreign to our bodies have made us sick. What we're saying is, and Dr. Berry says it best, and I hear you say it often, is there is a proper human diet. There is a way that humans are designed to eat. And what we're saying is, how do we get back to that, right? Wendy's hit the whole coin, where's the beef? It's my big question these days. Like, where is the beef? I'm going to personally ask any of you that are joining from Dr. Hampton's channel. I would love for you to subscribe. I am trying to grow my channel. You're welcome to be a part of Nutritional Knowledge. We have a Facebook page as well as a community that we're active. I'm active on my page as well. I am grateful for you in ways that I can't even explain. I remember 2 years ago, my son was in the hospital and you were walking me through, right? My son was also diagnosed with diabetes. A1C was a 12, and the hospital was treating him in ways that I knew were wrong, but I didn't know all the medical jargon. And you were a help to that. So I just say that to say that there are people who are interested in your healing. We're not just interested in managing you until you die. We want you to have a quality of life. So we keep showing up in these spaces. We keep talking. Trust me, I get on everybody's nerves in my world. They're like, oh my God, the food police is here again. And like Dr. Hampton, my journey, I'm still on my journey. Last week I was in Chicago. Guess what? I had popcorn in Chicago, right? I paid for it later because my body was so insulin sensitive. I paid for it. But those are the choices that we make. And what I'm saying is we want you to have information so that you can challenge the status quo inside of your doctor's office. We don't want you to fear your doctor. We don't want you to fear getting the labs. We want you to be informed about what does it really mean. Before I close out, Dr. Hampton, I just want to give you the last word. And thank your audience for showing up, my audience for continuing to show up. Our goal is to make sure that you get great information.
Well, anyone who's checking us out cares about healing. I would argue most people care about healing, but the life they live in, they just haven't had an opportunity to focus on healing because they're trying to put out fires. Their lives are complicated. They have relationship issues. They have job issues. They have, I don't have enough food on the table issues. How dare you suggest I eat a certain way when I'm barely eating, healthy food in general. So I understand everybody has a struggle. I would just only ask that people prioritize their food as the number one source of healing. Even as you support a family member who's struggling with any type of health condition or other issue, you have to take care of the body that you have first, because you can't support others if you're not healthy yourself. So make a commitment today that you're going to do a 7-day, a 30-day, a 90-day experiment. And rather you're courageous enough to try carnivore or just a low-carb diet, prioritize protein and a non-starchy vegetable. It's just that simple. You do not need a starch. You do not need sugar. You do not need any of those things. You need real food. Bagels are not real food. You need bacon, sausage, and eggs. That's real food. And you don't want to drink your sugar. So try not to drink your sugar. If you got to have coffee and you got to have something sweet, use pure monk fruit or stevia. Stay away from sugar. Try to take a walk after your meals. Commit to sleeping better. Commit to not worrying about what's going on the news better. And if you take these simple steps, you'll be far and away ahead of most people. Just know that you have people like myself and Denitra. Maybe do a 30-day experiment on her YouTube channel. Let's do that challenge.
Yeah,
Check it out. See if what she shared today is what you get in the future. And if it is, then that's somebody you need to support. So I really want to thank her for being able to just get me to this platform so I can share my voice with your audience and vice versa, because this is why I was born. I was born to help people heal. And I'm just grateful that I've been given that opportunity. So thank you for what you're doing. And I'm happy to do it again.
Absolutely. I appreciate you again and again. I can't say it enough. I appreciate your family for sharing you with us beyond what you do at Advocate, allowing you to show up in these spaces that is literally reaching the world. Everywhere I go, like I hear Dr. Hampton. And so I feel honored and privileged to have you stop by. And you're welcome anytime. Anytime you feel the urge, you want to just add some streams to your channel or whatever, anytime you say it, we can come and go live or record day and night. So guys, those that are listening, I do want to make sure that you all walk away with that Karnivor'ISH, right? And the ish stands for informed, satiated, and healing. We believe that if you get the right information, one of the things that you will realize is that your body is not satiated. It means this is why we have cravings. This is why we're still hungry. This is why we're ravenous. It's because we're eating foods that don't nourish us. Once you get that informed, satiated, then the healing begins. And the healing journey is a beautiful one. You will notice things. I went and got this, I call it stuff in my hair, but my hair used to be like really gray on the sides. Like my hair is no longer graying, right? And so these are the things that you get an opportunity to just watch in your body as they change. Replay this with your family. Share it with someone who's on your job. Now you can say, I saw a doctor say it. Not only is he saying it to us out loud on YouTube, he's doing it with his patients. He's doing it for himself, with his family, and so am I. And we are seeing the results, and we're not going to stop. As he said, I do it on a plane or a train. It doesn't matter. And so let's help your doctors figure out how to de-prescribe. It will be a new term for most doctors, but you get a chance to help school them as a way of helping them help their other patients. I see one question that's come across a couple of times in my last statements here that are asking, if you are taking patients out of state, can you take out of state patients?
Not yet. For Illinois, we can't do that. And however, I think that's why I'm leaning towards maybe creating a forum where I can do coaching,
Yes,
coaching.
yes, yes.
And I'll probably at some point in the near future do it that way. It's really not enough of us out here who are doing this work. And I know that some people like Dr. Philip Ovadia and Dr. Tro and others, Sean Baker's group. So there's other opportunities, but for me personally, it's going to come down to probably doing a model where people can ask questions and go from there.
Right. And so ENH 811, if you join my group and you have questions, I am trained to answer questions. I do not give medical advice. I will talk to you about your meds. I don't want you on them anyway. So, and then if you reach out to me, there is a doctor here in Tennessee. If I can figure out what state you're in, we do have a nurse practitioner here in the state that may have access to do virtual in your state, but I'll need to know. I see New York. Okay. Shoot me a direct message on Facebook if you have a Facebook account, ENH811. And see if we can get you connected. I also know that Jodanisha in Hawaii at one time was doing some virtual work. So we have some resources that I can connect you with if you reach out. We're both a part of the Society of Metabolic Health that has a website as well. So we are past the time. I appreciate you. And we still have people that are hanging in here. So I love it. I thank you all so much. I'm going to just take the opportunity to say that we'll have Dr. Hampton back again. And if I can be helpful as a coach to any of you, I am doing coaching and we'll be happy to help guide you on your journey. I am your ace. I am your advocate, your coach or educator. This has been Karnivor'ISH Konversations because everything starts with a conversation. And I believe today, this one could save your life or someone you love's life. So thank you again, Dr. Hampton.
Thank you.